In the legal filing today from Donald Trump's legal team, the one in which they continue to try to block the Justice Department from even looking at the classified documents they seized from Trump's beach club, even though those records are the U.S. government's own documents. In that filing today, Trump's team keeps referencing a case from the year 2012, the kind of premise their entire defense on it. They keep saying that this case from 2012 proves that all those documents the FBI seized at Mar-a-Lago were totally Trump's personal property, and they never should have been taken from him in the first place. That 2012 case is called Judicial Watch versus the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA. And if you're thinking, Judicial Watch, haven't I heard of them? Oh boy, have you. Judicial Watch is a right-wing legal organization best known for flooding Democratic administrations with ridiculous lawsuits. They filed 20 lawsuits over Hillary Clinton's emails. They filed lawsuits against government climate scientists, accusing them of fraud science. They have pushed every pro-Trump voter fraud conspiracy you can imagine. Their founder just had his law license suspended in Washington, D.C. But according to reporting from CNN, it was Judicial Watch's president, Tom Fitton, who convinced Trump that he should keep all these classified documents, that they were Trump's personal property, all based on this court case that Judicial Watch fought back in 2012. And that case concerned, I am not kidding here, Bill Clinton's sock drawer. When Bill Clinton was president, he periodically invited his old friend, the historian Taylor Branch, to the White House, where they made recordings of Clinton reflecting on his presidency. The idea was that after Clinton left office, he would use the tapes for an autobiography. Now, here's Taylor Branch talking about it in 2009, when he published his own book based on those tapes.
He consulted me, an old friend who had worked a lot in presidential libraries, out of the blue. He called, asked me, what can I do to make sure that the records 50 years from now will really reflect what's going on in the administration? And we lit upon this idea of doing a secret diary. From the very beginning, it was secret, and only in the second administration did he trust me enough to say, you put them away. And he had hid them in his sock drawer in the closet in the bedroom.
Well, when Judicial Watch found out about these tapes, they filed a lawsuit to get them. They said these are official presidential records and we should have access to them like any other presidential record. The National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, countered that former President Clinton had decided these tapes were his personal property. They were a personal record he made for himself and apparently kept in his sock drawer, and the archives weren't going to demand that he hand them over. Judicial Watch lost that case. The court ruled that Bill Clinton was within his rights to decide that his sock drawer tapes were personal records. And based on that ruling, Donald Trump is claiming that he has the right to declare that all these classified documents he squirreled away at his beach club are his personal records because he says so. Now, I am not a lawyer, but I would say there are a number of problems here. Chief among them, there would seem to be some obvious differences between some tape recordings you made of yourself for your own personal use kept in your sock drawer and, say, classified details on another country's nuclear program, as well as top-secret human intelligence sources. You simply cannot just decide that another country's nuclear secrets are your own personal property. That is not how any of this works. And even if Trump wants to claim he's decided that that stuff is all personal records rather than presidential records, let us not lose sight of the fact that lots of these documents might never have even been presidential records. To the extent those classified documents are really federal agencies' records, they are explicitly excluded by law from the definition of presidential records. These documents didn't belong to Trump when he was president, and they certainly do not now that he is a private citizen. Joining us now is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Great to see you, Alex.
You too. So, Michael, take us in a time machine back to the 1990s. Bill Clinton and his buddy Taylor Branch are sitting in the West Wing, making tapes to be used in some forthcoming autobiography of some sort. Can you contrast that with what Trump is alleging regarding these classified documents he had squirreled away at Mar-a-Lago?
Sure. I've even talked to Bill Clinton and Taylor Branch about those tapes, and they specifically, Bill Clinton said, these are private records, setting it aside. If you've got a president, for instance, who sends love letters to his wife, Aren't those protected, or can Judicial Watch subpoena those and publish them in the newspapers while a president is serving? Of course not. And in the same way, Donald Trump has absolutely no right to say that highly classified documents with, let's say, nuclear secrets, if that's what these are, or lists of friends of CIA agents in foreign countries, or other things that can be used to harm Americans and make them vulnerable to terrorists, if he just says, those are my private documents, I can do what I feel like with them. It's ridiculous. This will not survive a test in court.
It is amazing how many times, if you read these transcripts, if you read these filings, how many times Trump's attorneys cite the sock drawer case. But I mean, we talk about presidential records as if it's like scrapbook keeping, or at least in this scenario, Trump's team has wanted us to believe that this is just these are souvenirs. But presidential records and the Presidential Records Act came about after a very specific chapter in American history. Can you talk about why the PRA, the Presidential Records Act, is important and what it signified in a post-Nixon era?
Okay, I'll take my time machine now from the 90s back to the 1970s, when Richard Nixon was leaving office, driven out of office. He had a lot of embarrassing documents. People who visited the West Wing at the time he was leaving noticed that there were a lot of fireplaces working overtime and the acrid smell of documents being burned. Plus, Nixon had arranged to have military planes illicitly take some of these documents out to San Clemente, where he was going to his retirement. Finally, he made a deal with Jerry Ford, the new president that he never should have made, Ford, which said there's going to be a vault in California. This sounds like something in a Hitchcock film. Vault in California. Nixon's tapes and papers will go into the vault. There'll be two keys. One key to be held by the head of the National Archives, the other key to be held by Richard Nixon, with the suggestion that if Nixon decided to use his key and destroy every document that might be embarrassing to him, he could do it. Congress and the American people found out, and this act was passed in 1978 that said that most everything that a president produces in terms of documents during his presidency is the property of the American people. And has to remain within their hands. Can't be sold by a president. And even more so, as you're saying, Alex, classified documents, especially from another agency, those are not just souvenirs that Trump can sell to a hostile government or terrorists or show to visitors to Mar-a-Lago. Those are secrets that can be used by people who hate America to kill our children. Under the law, they're supposed to be in a National Archives vault under heavy guard, not sitting around Mar-a-Lago with people walking around.
It really feels like the parallels between what happened with Nixon, a president intent on destroying records, keeping things in a vault with only a single or two keys. The parallels between that and Mar-a-Lago are stunning and eerie. Michael Beschloss, NBC News presidential historian. Thank you, as always, for your time and wisdom, Michael.
Pleasure. Love it. Thank you, Alex.